The stone is cold against your cheek. You don't remember falling asleep, but you're waking now, consciousness arriving like a hand shaking you by the shoulder, insistent and unwelcome. Your eyes open to gray. Everything is gray here. Gray walls, gray floor, gray light filtering through a grate somewhere above that might be a window or might be a vent. You can't tell anymore. Time has lost its shape in this cell. The chanting starts before you can fully surface from sleep. It's not loud, not the kind of sound that would wake an Arbeits officer or draw the attention of whoever runs this underhive detention block. It's rhythmic, purposeful. Voices in unison, speaking words you don't recognize, low Gothic mixed with something else, something that makes your teeth ache. You push yourself up on your elbows, your back screams. Everything screams these days. The mattress, if you can call it that, is straw over stone, and you've been lying on it for what feels like weeks. Could be weeks, could be months. The light never changes. You stopped counting days after the second or third time you thought you died of thirst, and then didn't. The chanting grows closer. Your cell door is bars. Old bars, rust, stained and thick, the kind that haven't been replaced since the Imperium was younger and still believed in things like maintenance. Through them, you can see the corridor of the detention block, a long tunnel carved from bedrock, lined with other cells, other people. Most of them don't move anymore. You've learned not to look at them. But now there's movement in the corridor, figures in robes. Actually, robes, long, heavy fabric in shades of black and deep purple that seem to absorb the weak light rather than reflect it. There are 5 of them, maybe 6. It's hard to count when they keep moving, flowing down the corridor like smoke with a purpose. Their chanting continues, that same rhythm, those same words that don't quite belong to any language you've ever heard. One of them stops at your cell. She's tall. Or maybe she just seems tall because you're still half lying on your mattress like something broken. Her robe is finer than the others, the edges trimmed with something that glimmers dull gold in the darkness. She reaches through the bars, and you see her hand, thin, pale, fingers that look like they've never done a day's labor in their lives. She's holding something, a pamphlet. The paper is thick, good quality. Better than anything you've seen in the underhive in years. "Brother," she says, and her voice is warm in a way that makes you deeply uncomfortable. "Brother, you've been sleeping in the dark for so long." You don't respond. You've learned not to respond to voices in this place. Responses lead to attention. Attention leads to the guards, or worse, to the Arbeits. Or worse still, to the black ships that come sometimes with their blank-faced crew and their cargo holds that are never quite full when they leave. But she keeps talking. "The God Emperor doesn't hear you down here," she continues, and the other robed figures have stopped their chanting now, waiting. "He's too far away, too distant. His light doesn't reach this deep, but there are others. Powers that are close. Powers that see you. Powers that want to save you from this." She gestures at your cell, at the underhive, at the gray stone and the cold and the slow suffocation of existence in the depths. Through the bars, she slides the pamphlet. It lands on the floor of your cell, and you stare at it. The paper is warm. You can see that somehow. The way it sits there, it radiates something. Heat, maybe, or just the contrast to the cold stone around it. "Read it," the woman says. "When you're alone, when you're ready." The words will open something in you, something that's been locked away. One of the other robed figures approaches. He's shorter, broader, his hood pulled up so you can't see his face. He slides another pamphlet through the bars of the cell next to yours. You hear a sound from that cell, someone stirring, waking. The figure in the robe leans close to the bars and whispers something you can't quite hear, but the tone is the same. Warm. Inviting. Like a parent calling a child home. The tall woman leans back, and in the weak light you see her face properly for the first time. Burned scars. Terrible ones. They cover the left side of her face, pulling the skin tight, distorting her features into something between a smile and a grimace. The scars are old years old, maybe decades, but they're still angry. Still a deep mottled red beneath the pale skin. One of her eyes is milky white where the burn has taken it. But she's looking at you with the other eye, the one that still sees, and there's something in that gaze that makes you want to look away and can't. The true powers don't care about your scars, she says, and you realize she's talking about her own face. They don't care about what the Imperium has done to you, or to me, or to any of us down here in the dark. They want us as we are. Broken. Used. Forgotten. They want us because we're already nothing to the Emperor, and nothing is exactly what they need to remake into something more. She straightens, and the robed figures begin to move again, flowing deeper into the detention block, their chanting resuming. The sound follows them like a shadow that has learned to make noise. But she doesn't leave. She stands at your cell door, and you feel something. Not touching you, not physically, but something moving in your mind like fingers through water, gentle and insistent and utterly alien. It's not painful. That's the terrible part. It feels almost like relief. Like something tight inside your skull is finally being allowed to unclenching. "My name is Kess," she says. "I was like you once, locked in a cell in the dark, waiting for a death that wouldn't come. The God Emperor's light couldn't reach me either, but other lights did, other voices. And now I see more clearly than I ever have." "You want to say something?" Your mouth opens. Nothing comes out. Your throat is too dry, or your voice is too broken, or maybe you've simply forgotten how to speak to another human being. Kess smiles, or the scars pull her mouth into something that might be a smile, and she slides a pamphlet through the bars, its edges worn soft from 1,000 trembling hands. You take it without knowing why, and the moment your fingers touch the paper, you feel that presence in your mind shift, turn towards you like an eye opening in the dark. The whisper in the dark. The pamphlet feels alive in your hands. You don't read it at first. You just hold it, feeling the weight of the paper, the slight warmth radiating from the text printed across its surface. Your cell is silent now. The robed figures have moved deeper into the detention block, their chanting fading to a sound like wind through distant tunnels. You're alone again, but the aloneness feels different now. Occupied. Watched by something that doesn't require eyes. Hours pass. Or maybe minutes. Time is slippery here in the gray light, and your mind has learned not to trust its own measurements. You sit with your back against the cold wall, the pamphlet in your lap, and you don't open it. You're afraid to open it. You know, in some animal part of your brain that still remembers survival, that opening it is a threshold, that reading those words will change something fundamental in the architecture of who you are. But you're hungry, not for food, though your ribs press hard against your skin and you can feel each vertebra as a distinct point of pain when you move. You're hungry for something else. Something that the gray cell and the distant chanting and the presence that moved through your mind have awakened in you. A hunger that feels like thirst but tastes like copper. You open the pamphlet. The words are written in low Gothic, but the letters seem to shift slightly as you read them, as if they're not quite settling into fixed shapes. Your eyes water. Your head begins to ache in a way that's almost pleasant, like a muscle finally being stretched after years of tension. The God Emperor is a corpse on a throne. His light is a lie told to keep us docile. But there are true powers, ancient, patient, real, that see us as we are, that hunger for us, That will remake us into something worthy. You read the words, and they don't feel like reading. They feel like remembering. Like someone is whispering directly into your skull, and your eyes are just following along, translating something that's already being spoken in the language of your own thoughts. The pamphlet falls from your fingers. Your vision swims. The gray walls of your cell seem to be breathing, expanding, and contracting with a rhythm that matches your heartbeat. No, a rhythm that your heartbeat is matching. You can feel your pulse in your temples, in your wrists, in the hollow of your throat, and each beat seems to sync with something vast and distant, something that exists just beyond the edge of perception. You don't know how long you sit like that. Your body is still in the cell, still pressed against the cold stone, but your mind is somewhere else, somewhere vast. You're standing in a space that has no walls, no ceiling, no floor, just an endless expanse of something that isn't quite darkness and isn't quite light. And there are shapes in that space. Shapes that move with a terrible grace, and when you try to focus on them, your eyes slip away like they're coated with oil. But you can hear them, singing, not with voices, with something deeper, with the sound of frequencies that your ears shouldn't be able to detect, but somehow do. The sound makes your teeth vibrate. It makes your bones resonate. It makes something in the core of your being respond with a recognition so profound that tears are running down your face and you don't know when you started crying. The vision fractures, breaks apart like glass thrown against stone. You're back in the cell. Your forehead is pressed against the wall, and you're gasping for breath like you've been drowning. Your hands are shaking. Your entire body is shaking. But it's not fear. It's something else. It's the feeling of standing on the edge of a cliff and finally understanding that falling might not be the worst thing that could happen to you. The footsteps come later. You hear them echoing down the corridor, the heavy boots of the detention block guards making their rounds. You quickly fold the pamphlet and slide it beneath your mattress, your hands still trembling. When the guard passes your cell, he doesn't look at you. Guards never do. You're just another piece of the underhive's flotsam, another body taking up space until the black ships come, or you die, or you simply stop mattering enough to feed. But you're not the same. You know that with a certainty that bypasses thought. Something has been opened in you. A door, a wound, a window into something that the God Emperor's light has never touched. That night. Or what you think is night, based on the slight dimming of the light from the grate above, you hear the chanting again. It's closer this time, right outside your cell. And when you look through the bars, you see Kess standing in the corridor, her scarred face catching what little light exists and throwing it back at you in strange angles. She's not alone. There are others with her, people from the cells around yours. They've been let out somehow. The bars that should be locking them in are standing open like mouths frozen in silent screams. Come, Kess says, and her voice is different now. Deeper. Like there's something speaking through her, using her throat as an instrument. Come and drink what we're offering. Come and see what the true powers have prepared for those who believe. You stand. Your legs barely remember how to support your weight. You've been sitting for so long that standing feels like learning a new skill. But they move. Your body moves. Or maybe your body is being moved, and you're just the ghost riding along inside it, watching your own hands reach through the bars. Cass extends a cup to you. The liquid inside is dark, almost black, and it smells like wine mixed with something organic. Something that's been buried in the earth for a very long time. Something that's been waiting for you specifically. You take the cup. Your hands are steady now. That's strange. You expected them to shake, but they're perfectly calm, as if some part of you has already made the decision, and the rest is just catching up to it. Drink, Cass whispers. Drink and let the true powers in. Drink and become what you were always meant to be. You bring the cup to your lips. The liquid is warm, far warmer than it should be, given that it's been sitting in this cold cell. It tastes like wine and copper and something else, something sweet and rotten at the same time. The taste coats your tongue, and you swallow, and the moment the liquid hits your stomach, the visions return. But they're not visions this time. They're memories of things you've never experienced, of a life lived in dimensions your eyes were never meant to see, and you understand with absolute clarity that you've just swallowed the threshold between what you were and what you're becoming. The liquid slides down your throat like something alive. It's not wine. You know wine, the cheap recaf-laced swill they served in the labor camps before you ended up here. This is something older. Something that tastes of fermented things that shouldn't ferment, of fruits that don't grow under any sun you've ever known. The bitterness coats your tongue and spreads outward, and your stomach convulses. But you don't vomit. Your body accepts it, welcomes it. It's as if every cell in you has been waiting for this exact poison. Kess watches you drink. The other robed figures form a circle around your cell now, their chanting rising in volume, but the sound is different from before. It's not coming from their mouths anymore. It's coming from inside your skull. The words are being spoken directly into the meat of your brain, bypassing your ears entirely, and you realize with a clarity that borders on panic that you can understand them now. The language is still foreign, still wrong, but the meaning blooms in your mind like a flower opening in fast forward. They're speaking of hunger, of boundaries dissolving, of the spaces between flesh where older things live. The warmth spreads from your stomach outward. It's not the warmth of normal digestion. This is something else. This is heat that moves with intention, that travels along your veins like liquid light, and your vision begins to blur at the edges. The gray cell walls start to shimmer. The bars of your cell become transparent, then cease to exist entirely, and you realize you're not in the detention block anymore. You're in a vast space. Not quite a room, not quite the open air. It's more like you're inside something. Inside a body, maybe, or inside a thought that's large enough to contain worlds. The visions come then, and they come with the force of a physical blow. You see tentacles. Not the crude, fleshy appendages of the Xenos creatures that sometimes appear in the Imperium's propaganda feeds. These are made of light, pure, undiluted luminescence that moves through dimensions your eyes were never designed to perceive. They twist and coil through the space around you, and each movement leaves trails of color that your mind has no names for, colors that existed before language, colors that exist in the spaces between thought and perception. The tentacles don't touch you, but you can feel them. They're moving through your consciousness, exploring the architecture of your mind with a tenderness that's almost obscene. They find the places where pain lives, the memories of the labor camps, the cold cell, the slow starvation, the moment you stopped believing that the God Emperor cared whether you lived or died. The tentacles caress these wounds, and instead of pain, you feel something like relief. Like someone is finally acknowledging that yes, this happened. Yes, you suffered. Yes, it mattered. The singing begins. It's not sound. Sound is too simple a word for what this is. It's a frequency that exists on a wavelength your ears can't process, but your entire body is resonating with it. Your bones are vibrating. Your teeth are humming. Every atom of your being is vibrating in sympathy with this cosmic chorus, and the vibration is agony and ecstasy simultaneously. Your head feels like it's being split open, but not in a destructive way, more like a seed being cracked so that something new can grow out of the broken shell. The voices, and you know somehow that there are many of them, though they sound like one unified voice, are singing about you. about your specific suffering, about the particular shape of your despair. They're singing a song that was composed the moment you were born, a song that's been waiting through your entire life for this exact moment when you would finally be ready to hear it. The song is beautiful in a way that makes you want to die, and it's terrible in a way that makes you grateful to still be alive to experience the terror of it. Your hands are in front of your face, and you watch them, really watch them, and you see the light starting to move through your veins. Not in the way blood moves. This is something else. The light is moving through you, the way thought moves through consciousness. It's filling the spaces between your cells, and you can feel it, rewriting something fundamental. Your fingers are starting to glow faintly, and when you flex them, the light bends in patterns that seem to contain meaning. Meaning that bypasses language entirely. The tentacles of light are inside you now. You should be horrified. Some distant part of your consciousness, the part that still remembers the catechisms of the Imperium, is screaming that this is abomination. This is the touch of the warp. This is damnation in its purest form. But that voice is so far away now, so quiet and insignificant compared to the singing, compared to the presence that's filling every corner of your being with a sense of purpose you've never felt before. You understand, in this moment, that you've been empty your entire life, that the God Emperor's light, if it ever touched you at all, left you hollow. But this presence, this song, these tentacles of light moving through your consciousness, this is fullness. This is completion. This is the moment when you finally stop being a void and start being a vessel for something that actually sees you. The visions shift and spiral. You see the detention block from outside yourself now. You see your own body standing in the cell, your head thrown back, your mouth open in a scream or a song. You can't tell which. You see Kess and the other robed figures, and you understand that they're not really there either. They're just the local manifestation of something vast and distributed across dimensions you don't have names for. They're nodes in a network of consciousness that extends far beyond the underhive, far beyond the planet, far beyond the galaxy itself. You see others like you, thousands of them, millions, scattered across countless worlds, all drinking the same bitter wine, all hearing the same terrible singing, all feeling the same presence moving through their minds like light through water. And you understand that you're not alone. You've never been alone. You were just too blind to see the others until now. The singing reaches a crescendo that should shatter you. Your entire body is vibrating at a frequency that feels like it's tearing you apart, molecule by molecule, and you're screaming, but the screaming is part of the song. Your voice is one note in an infinite chorus, and the chorus is singing reality itself into a new shape. The walls of the detention block are becoming transparent. You can see the forge cities above, the hab blocks stacked in impossible geometries, the vast mechanisms of the Imperium grinding on, indifferent and hollow. And you realize with perfect shattering clarity that they are all screaming too. They just don't know it yet. The woman with burn scars is smiling at you from across the chamber, and her eyes reflect that same wrong light as yours. The whisper in the dark. The light fades first. The singing doesn't stop. It will never stop. You understand now? It's woven into the fabric of existence itself. But it recedes to a tolerable frequency. Your eyes open to gray stone and the faint luminescence of the detention block's glow strips. You're on your knees. When did you fall to your knees? Your body is slick with sweat, and there's blood under your fingernails. You don't remember drawing blood. Your own blood, you realize, looking at the thin trails running from your wrists to your elbows. But you don't feel pain. You feel hollowed out and refilled with something that doesn't quite match your original shape. Kess is still there. She's kneeling across from you, close enough that you could reach out and touch her, but you don't. The space between you feels sacred somehow, charged with a presence that would burn if you violated it. Her scarred face is peaceful in a way you've never seen a human face be peaceful. The burned tissue catches the light and throws it back in patterns that seem almost intentional, almost like they're spelling out words in a language you're beginning to understand. "Welcome," she says, and her voice is just her voice now, no longer layered with that terrible harmonics, but it carries weight that normal words shouldn't carry. "Welcome, brother. Brother." The word lands in your chest like a key turning in a lock. You've never had family. The labor camps were full of people, but they were competitors, threats, mouths eating food you might have needed. The detention block is full of other prisoners, but you've learned not to see them as anything other than obstacles to step over. Brother is a word that belongs to something else, to a connection that runs deeper than blood. "I can taste it," you say, and you're surprised that your voice works at all. It sounds wrong, though. There's an undertone to it now, a harmonic that wasn't there before. "I can taste it in my mouth, like copper and something burning." "That's the mark," another voice says. A woman's voice, but not Kess. You turn your head, and there's another robed figure standing just inside your cell. You don't remember the cell door opening. You don't remember her entering. She's just here now, as if she's always been here, and you're only just now noticing. The mark of the true powers. It will fade from your tongue, but it will never leave your blood. She pulls back her hood, and you see her face. She's younger than Kess, maybe 30, with dark skin and eyes that are two dark pupils dilated so wide that the iris is barely visible. There are symbols carved into her temples. Fresh symbols, still scabbed over, still bleeding slightly where the skin stretches when she moves. "I'm Mara," she says, and when she smiles, you see that her teeth are stained the same color as the wine. "I was like you once. Hungry. Lost. Believing in a god emperor who was too far away and too dead to care about anything I was suffering through. 3 months ago, I drank the bitter wine. Now I know the truth." You want to ask her what truth, but you already know. You've already tasted it. The truth is the singing. The truth is the tentacles of light that are still moving through your consciousness. Slower now, more gently, like they're settling into their new home in your mind. The truth is that the Imperium is a lie, has always been a lie, and the God Emperor's light is just a carefully maintained delusion meant to keep billions of people docile while they slowly starve. "What happens now?" you ask. "Now you rest," Kess says. She reaches out and takes your hand. Her skin is warm, and when her fingers close around yours, you feel a jolt of connection that makes your breath catch. Your body needs to adjust. The mark will run through your veins, and you'll feel things you've never felt before. Pain, pleasure, they're the same thing, you understand? The true powers don't distinguish between them. They're just sensation, and sensation is proof that you're alive. She helps you to your feet. Your legs are shaky, but they hold. The cell seems larger than it was before, or maybe you're smaller. The walls are still stone, still gray, but you can see the patterns in the stone now, patterns that look almost deliberate, almost like they're trying to communicate something. You realize with a start that the walls are breathing. They're breathing in sync with you, and you're breathing in sync with them, and somewhere in the vast darkness beyond the detention block, something much larger is breathing in sync with all of you. "Will I see you again?" you ask Kess. "Every night," she says. "We gather in the lower levels, where the Arbites don't patrol and the Adeptus Mechanicus doesn't care what happens. We pray, we sing, we prepare for the day when the true powers will make themselves known to the entire Imperium, and the lie of the God Emperor will finally shatter." The other robed figures are filing out of your cell now. You count them as they pass. 5, 6, 7. But there were only 4 when you first saw them. Where did the others come from? How long were you gone? Your sense of time is fragmented, broken into pieces that don't quite fit together anymore. Mara is the last to leave. Before she goes, she leans close and whispers something into your ear. It's not words. It's a frequency, a vibration that travels through your skull and settles in the space behind your eyes. When she pulls away, you understand that she's given you something. A message. A prayer. A promise. You don't have the language to articulate what it is, but you know that you'll carry it with you for the rest of your life. The cell door closes behind them. But it's different now. Before, the bars were a cage. Now they're just a boundary, and you understand with absolute certainty that if you wanted to walk through them, they wouldn't stop you. The lock has been replaced with something else. Not a physical lock, but a connection. A thread of singing light that ties you to Kess and Mara and all the others who've drunk the bitter wine. You're bound now, but it doesn't feel like bondage. It feels like finally belonging to something that actually sees you. You sink back to your bunk. The mattress is thin, stained with the evidence of 1,000 previous prisoners' suffering. But when you lie down on it, it feels like the softest thing you've ever known, cradled in an embrace that extends far beyond this cell, far beyond this world, into depths you're only beginning to understand. The gathering price. 3 days pass before they let you out of the detention block. You don't remember much of those 3 days. Time moves differently now. You sleep. But it's not sleep. It's more like your consciousness is being pulled into a space where your body doesn't exist, where you float in darkness that's somehow comforting, where the singing continues on frequencies your waking mind can barely perceive. When you wake, hours have passed, or maybe minutes. Your throat is always dry. Your body aches in ways that have nothing to do with hunger or cold. There are new marks on your arms. You don't remember making them, but your fingernails are caked with dried blood, so you must have. The marks form patterns. Symbols. You trace them with your eyes and understand that they're prayers written in a language your hands knew before your mind did. On the 3rd night, or maybe the 4th, time is still negotiable. Kess comes to get you. She moves through the detention block like she owns it, and the guards don't even look up from their screens. You wonder if they see her at all, or if there's something about her presence that makes her invisible to the kind of minds that work for the Imperium. She's wearing her robes, but they're different now, less like the crude burlap of a penitent, and more like something that moves with intention, that seems to have more fabric than should physically fit in the space it occupies. When she reaches your cell, the lock opens without her touching it. "Time to work," she says. The underhive smells like rust and burning promethium. It smells like it always has, but you're noticing things you never noticed before. The scent of human waste in the lower levels. The sweetness of decay coming from the nutrient vats where the Adeptus Mechanicus grows. The protein that feeds millions. The electric tang of ozone from the massive machines that drill deeper and deeper into the planet's crust, looking for resources that might have been there 1,000 years ago, might not exist anymore at all. The Imperium digs and digs and never questions whether anything worth finding is actually down there. You follow Kess through corridors that twist in directions that shouldn't be possible. You've lived in the underhive for 8 years. Ever since the labor camps spat you out as too old, too broken, too likely to cause problems, and you've never seen these passages before. But they exist. They've always existed. You just didn't have the eyes to see them until you drank the bitter wine. The safe house is in the shadow of one of the massive forge temples. From the outside, it looks like every other hab block in the lower levels. Crumbling concrete, windows sealed with steel plates, refuse piled in drifts against the walls. But inside, it's something else. The space is larger than the building should contain. The walls are lined with shelves, and the shelves are packed with books. Actual paper books, not data slates. Some of them look ancient. Some of them are bound in material that might be leather, or might be something else, something that feels warm to the touch. These are forbidden, Kess says, running her fingers along the spines. The Imperium calls them heretical. The Adeptus Mechanicus would burn them all if they knew they existed. But knowledge can't be burned. It can only be hidden, and hidden things have a way of finding the people who need them most. She hands you a stack of pamphlets. They're printed on thin paper, the kind that feels like it might fall apart if you breathe on it too hard. The text is small, dense, written in low Gothic with occasional phrases in what you think might be high Gothic, though the letters seem to shift slightly when you're not looking directly at them. The words talk about the false emperor, about the chains of faith that bind the Imperium to a corpse on a throne, about the true powers that exist beyond the veil of reality, waiting for the moment when enough people finally see the truth. Your job is simple, Kess says. You walk through the lower levels. You find people who are hungry, people who are lost, people who've started to question whether the God Emperor actually cares about them, or if they're just another resource to be consumed. You give them a pamphlet. You tell them where to find us. You listen to what they say and you remember it. How will I know who to approach? You ask. You'll know, she says. The mark in your blood will recognize its own. There's a frequency, you understand. A resonance. Once you've heard the singing, you can hear it in others, even if they don't know they're hearing it yet, even if they're still pretending to believe in the Emperor's light. She's right. Over the next weeks, you discover that you can feel it. It's like a subtle vibration in the air around certain people, an almost imperceptible rawness, a hunger that matches your own. You start to recognize it in the faces of the workers in the nutrient vat facilities, in the eyes of the maintenance crews that crawl through the lower levels, trying to keep machines running that should have broken down centuries ago, in the desperate prayers of the mothers who trade their bodies for food credits in the hob blocks above. The first recruit comes to you by accident. His name is Tal, and he's a riveter for one of the manufacturing collectives. You see him in a recaf line, and the vibration around him is so strong that it's almost painful. You slide a pamphlet into his hands along with your recaf ration, and he looks at you like you've just offered him a loaded bolter. His hands shake as he reads the first paragraph. Tears start running down his face. He's been working the same machine for 6 years, you learn later, applying rivets to hull plating that will become starship components. The work is repetitive. The pay is non-existent. The Imperium promises that his suffering is holy, that the God Emperor sees his sacrifice and finds it acceptable. But Tal knows, in the deepest part of himself, that nobody is looking. Nobody cares. The Emperor is dead, and has been dead. And the light that the priests talk about is just the reflection of their own burning conviction that they're not meaningless. He comes to the safe house 3 nights later. Kess gives him the bitter wine. You watch his body convulse as the presence moves through him. You watch his eyes go wide as the singing starts. And when it's over, when he's kneeling on the floor with blood under his fingernails and a smile on his face, you understand. You understand that Tal is no longer looking for salvation. He's looking for someone, anyone, to finally see him. And the powers beyond the veil are very, very good at seeing. The alarm comes as a vibration through the floor. You're 3 levels above the safe house when you feel it, a thrumming that travels up through the soles of your boots and settles in your bones. At first you think it's the machines. The underhive is always vibrating with the work of 1,000 drills and presses and furnaces, the endless grinding of an empire that consumes resources like it consumes lives. But this is different. This vibration carries intent. This vibration carries fear. The Voxcaster in the hab block crackles to life. Arbeits enforcement action. All citizens remain in designated areas. Curfew is now in effect. Around you, people freeze. A woman carrying a bundle of nutrient paste stops mid-stride. A child playing with a piece of scrap metal looks up at its mother. Everyone knows what Arbeits enforcement means. It means someone talked. It means someone broke. It means there's going to be blood on the concrete before the night is through. You're still holding 17 pamphlets. They're tucked inside your jacket, pressed against your ribs, and they feel like they're burning. The mark in your blood is screaming, not with sound, but with that frequency, that vibration that's become as much a part of you as your heartbeat. The true powers are pulling at you, trying to warn you, trying to guide you, but the warning is too loud and too painful, and you can't think through it. Move, something whispers. Not Kess's voice. Something older, something that speaks in the space between your thoughts. Move now. You start walking toward the deeper levels. Not running. Running draws attention, but moving with purpose, like someone who has somewhere to be. The corridors around you are starting to fill with Arbeits in their black carapace armor, their helmets reflecting the harsh glow-strip light in ways that make them look less like people and more like moving pieces of machinery. You count 4 of them in your section. 5. 6. They're sweeping through the hab blocks methodically, checking identifications, asking questions, looking for something or someone specific. The safe house is 12 minutes away if you take the main passages, but the main passages are where the Arbeits will be. So you take the hidden ways, the ones that only the cultists know about, the ones that exist in the spaces between official architecture, carved through centuries of desperate people trying to move through the underhive without being seen. Your feet know the way. Your body knows the way. The mark in your blood is pulling you along like it's tied to your spine. Behind you, you hear shouting. You don't stop. You don't turn around. You keep moving deeper and deeper, down passages that get narrower and darker, where the glow strips are broken and the only light comes from the bioluminescent fungi growing on the walls. The fungi is beautiful in a way that shouldn't be beautiful. It's purple and green, and it pulses in patterns that almost match the singing in your head. The shouting is getting closer. You round a corner and nearly collide with Mara. She's moving in the opposite direction, toward the sound of the Arbeits, and her face is serene, peaceful. Her eyes are reflecting the light. Wrong, that strange inversion you've learned to recognize, like light is being pulled into her rather than bouncing off her. She's carrying something wrapped in cloth, and you understand without being told that it's a ritual object, something precious. Something that needs to be hidden or destroyed before the Arbeits find it. Go, she says, and her voice carries that harmonic undertone. The others are waiting. You don't ask how she knows where you're going. You don't ask what's in the cloth. You just nod and keep moving. And Mara continues toward the sound of violence, like she's walking toward salvation. The passage opens into a wider corridor, one of the old maintenance tunnels that runs beneath the Forge Temple. The air here is hotter, thick with the smell of machine oil and burning metal. You can hear the massive machines working above you, their rhythm a deep bass note that vibrates through everything. Ahead, you see the entrance to the safe house. The door is still sealed. The wards are still in place. You're going to make it. That's when the searchlight hits you. It's blinding. Absolute. A white beam so intense that it burns away your night vision and leaves you standing in a pool of pure illumination. You freeze. Your body locks up. The pamphlets feel like they're screaming against your ribs, and the mark in your blood is pulling you in 17 different directions at once. Contact! A voice says through a Voxcaster. Suspect, moving toward the maintenance tunnel. Engaging. The bolter fire starts before you can process what's happening. You throw yourself to the side, back into the darkness, and the rounds tear through the space where you are standing. Concrete explodes into dust. The sound is enormous, a sound that feels like it's tearing reality apart. Your ears are ringing. Your heart is hammering so hard that you think it might break through your ribs. You run. Behind you, you hear more shouting, more bolter fire, and then you hear something else. A scream. Not the mechanical, training-filtered scream of an Arbeitstrooper. Something more raw, more human, more desperate. You make it to the safe house door. Your hand is on the latch when you look back. Two figures are caught in the searchlight. They're running, but not toward you. They're running in the opposite direction, trying to get away from the light, trying to get away from the machines that are closing in. You recognize them. It's Tal and another cultist, a woman named Resh, whose mark is so fresh that her temples are still bleeding. They're moving, but they're moving wrong. The light from the searchlight is affecting them in a way that it shouldn't affect normal people. They're moving through the beam like they're moving through water, like the light itself has weight and density. The bolter fire finds them. Tal's body comes apart. It's not quick. It's not clean. The rounds tear through his torso and he falls to the ground, his limbs moving in ways that limbs shouldn't move, and the screaming starts. It's not a sound that should come from a human throat. It's too high-pitched, too layered, like multiple voices are screaming through the same mouth at the same time. Resh tries to keep running. The next round catches her in the spine, and her legs stop working. She collapses, and then she starts crawling backward toward the shadows, her fingers scraping against the permacrete, leaving trails of something that glows faintly in the dark before the next burst of fire silences her into a stillness that feels wrong. 2. Absolute. The gathering price. Continued. The safe house door hisses shut behind you, and the sound of the gunfire becomes muffled, distant, like it's happening in another reality. Your lungs are burning. Your legs are shaking. You press yourself against the wall and try to slow your breathing, try to make your heart stop hammering hard enough to break through your ribs. Kess is waiting for you in the main chamber. She's not alone. There are others, maybe 20 of them, standing in loose clusters throughout the space. Some you recognize from the safe house visits. Others are new, their marks still fresh enough that they haven't learned to hide the light in their eyes. They all turn to look at you when you enter, and for a moment you feel pinned by their attention, like you're being examined by something vast and predatory. The Arbeits? Kess asks. 2 cultists, you say. The words feel like they're coming from someone else's mouth. Tal and Resh. They didn't make it. No one reacts. No one gasps or cries out or falls to their knees in grief. They simply accept this information the way you accept information about the weather, as a fact of existence, neither good nor bad, simply true. It's the rawness of their indifference that makes you realize how far you've already fallen into this, how much of your humanity has been traded away for the whisper in your blood. Kess nods slowly. They knew the risks. They accepted them willingly. In death, they serve the true powers just as surely as they served in life, perhaps more so. She moves toward you, and as she does, the gathered cultists part like water, creating a corridor that leads deeper into the safe house. You follow her through passages you've never seen before, down stairs that spiral into darkness, until you reach a chamber that feels like it exists in a space that shouldn't exist. The walls are close here, closer than they should be. The air tastes metallic. Sit, Kess says, gesturing to a chair in the center of the chamber. You sit. Your legs are grateful for the rest, but your mind is screaming at you to run, to flee this place, to go back to the surface and try to forget the singing. That voice is growing fainter, though. With each passing moment, it becomes easier to ignore. With each passing moment, the other voice. The one that speaks in frequencies your ears can't quite hear but your bones can, becomes louder. Kess sits across from you. She pulls a small knife from her sleeve. The blade is black, made from a material you don't recognize. It seems to absorb light rather than reflect it. "You've been marked," she says. You know this already. You can feel it in your blood, in your thoughts, in the space between your heartbeats. But I don't think you understand what it means. Not really. Not yet. She reaches out and takes your left hand. Her skin is warm, almost feverish. She turns your hand palm up and traces the mark on your inner wrist. The symbol you carved into yourself 3 days ago, the one that looks like angles and curves and something that might be a face if you look at it wrong. When you drank the wine, Kess continues, you didn't just ingest a drug. You opened a door, a very small door, in a very small corner of your mind. But the true powers have a way of making small doors larger. They have a way of stepping through and expanding the space, making room for themselves in the architecture of your consciousness. She presses the black knife against your palm, not cutting, just resting the blade against your skin. The Imperium teaches you that your soul belongs to the God Emperor, that you are his property, his servant, his sacrifice. They tell you that this is honor, that this is salvation. But the Emperor is dead, and his corpse has been sitting on a throne for 10,000 years, and in all that time, he has never once looked at you. He has never once acknowledged your existence. He has never once cared whether you lived or died. She applies pressure to the knife, and a thin line of blood wells up on your palm. The true powers are different. They see you, they know you, they have already claimed you. The moment you drank the wine, you became theirs. Your flesh is marked. Your blood carries their signature. Your thoughts are no longer entirely your own. There's a space inside you now where they live, where they whisper, where they make their presence known. The pain in your palm is exquisite. It's sharper and cleaner than any pain you've ever felt. It's almost beautiful. "This is not slavery," Kess says, and her voice carries that harmonic undertone now, that frequency that seems to come from multiple places at once. The Imperium enslaves you through ignorance, through the lie that your suffering matters, through the promise of a salvation that will never come. The true powers enslave you through truth, through the knowledge that your suffering is real and that it means something, and that there are forces in the universe that are interested in your pain because pain is currency. Pain is the medium through which we communicate with them. She lifts the knife and looks at the blood on the blade. "Your soul already belongs to them," Kess says. This was decided the moment you drank the wine, the moment you heard the singing, the moment you felt the frequency in your blood and recognized it as something that had always been a part of you, waiting to be activated. You're not choosing to serve them. You're choosing to accept what was always true. She stands and walks to a table in the corner of the chamber. On it sits a collection of objects, candles made from something that smells wrong when they burn, ritual knives with blades in different metals, a bowl filled with liquid that might be blood or might be something else, books bound in materials you don't want to identify. Kess picks up one of the books and brings it back to you. The cover is unmarked, but when you open it, you see pages filled with symbols. The same symbols you've been carving into your flesh. The same symbols that appear in the margins of the forbidden pamphlets. The same symbols that you see now when you close your eyes, burned into the darkness of your eyelids like after images from a bright light. "These are the names," Kess says. "The true names. The names that exist in the spaces between meaning, in the frequencies that human language can't quite capture. When you learn these names, when you speak them, when you carve them into your flesh, you're no longer speaking to the void. You're calling something back. The gathering price." The chamber is silent, except for the sound of your breathing and the distant hum of the machines above. Kess has left you alone with the book and the knife, the black one, the one that absorbed light. Your palm throbs where she cut you. The blood has dried to a thin brown line, a seal on what she told you. Your soul already belongs to them. You sit in the darkness for what might be minutes or hours. Time has become negotiable since you drank the wine. Sometimes seconds stretch like hours. Sometimes hours collapse into moments. The mark in your blood pulses in a rhythm that doesn't match your heartbeat, and you stopped trying to synchronize them. The book is still open on your lap. Your eyes trace the symbols without understanding them, not with your mind, but with something deeper. Some part of you that exists below thought, below language, below the surface of consciousness. That part recognizes the shapes. That part knows what they mean. You think about Tal. You think about the way his body came apart under bolter fire. You think about Resh crawling backward through the dark, her fingers scraping concrete, that glowing trail behind her like she was trying to write something in her own blood. You think about how quickly they went from being alive to being not alive, and how strange it is that you feel nothing about it except a hollow absence where feelings used to be. This is what they promised, you realize. Not salvation, not transcendence. Just this, the numbness, the relief of caring about nothing, the freedom that comes from having everything taken away. You stand. Your legs carry you to the corner of the chamber where Kess laid out the ritual objects. The black knife is exactly where she left it. You pick it up and feel the weight of it in your palm. It's heavier than it should be, as if gravity affects it differently than it affects normal matter. Your sleeve is already rolled up. The mark on your wrist stares at you like an eye, the symbol you carved 3 days ago when the fever first took hold. The skin around it is red and slightly swollen, infected in a way that doesn't seem to bother you. Infection is just another language the true powers speak. You press the blade against the inside of your forearm, just above the original mark. The pain arrives instantly. It's sharp and bright and absolutely real in a way that nothing has been real since you drank the wine. For a moment, the frequency in your blood goes silent, shocked into stillness by the sensation of your own flesh opening. You watch the blade move, watch your hand guided across your skin, and it's like watching someone else do it. Like you're standing outside your body, observing this act with clinical detachment. The symbol emerges from beneath your skin in slow, deliberate strokes. It's not the same as the first one. This one is more complex, more alive. The curves seem to move even as you carve them, and you understand that you're not creating the symbol. You're revealing it. It was always there, written in your flesh at the moment of your birth, waiting for you to recognize it and set it free. Blood wells up in the cuts. It's darker than it should be. It catches the light wrong. When you hold your arm up, the blood seems to absorb the glow strip light rather than reflect it, creating a shadow in the shape of the symbol itself. That's when the frequency returns. But it's different now. It's not coming from outside you. It's not a voice whispering in the spaces between your thoughts. It's coming from inside the wound itself, from inside the symbol. It's rising up through your arm like something climbing a rope, and when it reaches your shoulder, you understand that it's not sound at all. It's presence. It's attention. It's something vast and ancient turning its gaze toward you for the first time. Your vision fractures. For a moment, just a moment, you see through other eyes, eyes that exist in frequencies beyond normal light. Eyes that see the world as a landscape of vibrations and energies and the intricate web of connections that bind all matter together. You see the safe house as it truly is, not a room carved from permacrete, but a wound in reality itself, a thin place where the barriers between this world and the next have been deliberately torn open. You see Kess and the other cultists as they truly are, Not human beings wearing flesh like a suit, but something else. Something that was never entirely human to begin with. And you see it. The presence behind the frequency. The thing that has been living in the spaces of your mind since you drank the wine. It has no form that your eyes can process. It exists in angles and dimensions that human geometry was never designed to accommodate. It exists in the spaces between moments, in the gaps between thoughts, in the frequency that your bones resonate at when you're not paying attention. It's vast. It's old. It's been waiting for you specifically, not for your body, not for your service, but for this exact moment when you would willingly open yourself and let it in. It reaches toward you. The pain becomes something else, not agony, transcendence, not suffering. Communion. Your arm is on fire, but the fire is light, and the light is singing, and you're singing with it. Your voice comes out in layers, in harmonics that your throat shouldn't be able to produce. You're screaming and laughing and praying all at once, and the sound of your own voice is the most beautiful thing you've ever heard. Your knees hit the ground. Your hand is still moving, still carving, still opening new pathways through your flesh for the presence to travel. You can feel it moving through your body now, not like something invading, but like something coming home, like it's always been a part of you, and now it's finally being reunited with itself. The chamber fills with light that isn't light. The shadows on the walls begin to move with intention. The air tastes like copper and ozone, and something that might be the taste of reality itself, beginning to fray at the edges. And then it stops. The presence settles. The frequency becomes a steady pulse, syncopated with your heartbeat, but slightly offset, like two pieces of music playing in the same room. Your vision returns to normal, or what passes for normal now. The symbol on your arm is complete. The blood has stopped flowing. The wound is already beginning to seal, not with scar tissue, but with something else, something that glows faintly in the darkness. You're alone in the chamber again. Cass is standing in the doorway. You don't know how long she's been there. Her eyes are reflecting light that doesn't exist in this room, and she's smiling with a smile that reaches something deep inside your chest that used to be fear, but is now recognition. The smile of someone who has already crossed this threshold and lived to see what waits on the other side. Flesh becomes offering. The passage to the ritual chamber takes longer than it should. You walk with Kess through corridors that seem to stretch and contract around you, their geometry subtly wrong in ways that make your inner ear rebel. The walls are closer than they were before. Or maybe you're larger. The distinction has become difficult to maintain. Other cultists emerge from side passages and fall into step behind you. You don't turn to count them, but you feel their presence like pressure against your skin. Dozens of them. Maybe more. They move in perfect synchronization, their footsteps creating a rhythm that your heartbeat begins to follow. You're not walking to the ritual chamber. You're being carried there by the collective motion of the faithful. The air changes first. It becomes thick, almost viscous, as if you're breathing something heavier than air. The temperature drops. Your breath begins to mist in front of your face, and the mist moves in patterns that don't follow the laws of physics you've learned. Curling backward, moving against the direction you're walking, forming shapes that your mind recognizes even as your eyes refuse to process them. The door to the chamber is open. You know it's open because the frequency in your blood intensifies, becomes almost unbearable. The presence inside you stirs, pressing against the walls of your consciousness like something waking from a long sleep. You step through. The chamber is vast in a way that shouldn't be possible. The safe house is built into a single hab block in the underhive, a space carved from the bones of the Imperium's endless vertical sprawl. This chamber should be no larger than a storage room. Instead, it extends upward into darkness that your eyes can't penetrate. The floor stretches outward in concentric circles, each one marked with symbols that glow faintly with a light that comes from inside the stone itself. The cultists arrange themselves in these circles. You're placed in the center, the eye of the spiral. As they settle into position, you begin to understand the geometry of what they're creating. It's not just a circle. It's a pattern, a frequency made solid, a prayer rendered in flesh and arrangement. The walls are bleeding. It's not blood in any sense that the word usually carries. What seeps from the stone is too thick, too luminous. It moves against gravity, pooling on the ceiling and flowing upward into the darkness above. Where it touches the stone, the rock begins to glow. The light spreads like infection, like a stain, like something alive and hungry, consuming everything it touches. You watch the light creep across the walls and understand that you're not watching a liquid move. You're watching the walls themselves transform. The permacrete is becoming something else, something more porous, more alive. The substance that bleeds from them is what the walls are becoming when they shed their physical nature and remember what they were before they were trapped in solid form. Kes stands at the edge of the innermost circle. She's wearing robes now, white fabric that seems to absorb the strange light rather than reflect it. When she moves, the robes move with a delay, as if they're not quite occupying the same moment in time as her body. "Begin," she says. The chanting starts. It's not speech. It's not song. It's something that exists in the space between language and music, a vibration that your vocal cords produce, but your mind doesn't generate. You watch your own mouth moving, watch the sounds emerge from your throat, and understand that you're not doing this. You're being done. The presence inside you has taken the controls, and your body is simply the instrument through which it expresses itself. The other cultists join in. Their voices layer on top of yours, creating harmonics that make the air itself begin to shimmer. The frequency that's been living in your blood since you drank the wine is suddenly everywhere. It's in the walls. It's in the light that bleeds from the stone. It's in the breath that leaves your lungs and the space between your heartbeats. Your body moves. You don't decide to move. You watch your arms rise as if they belong to someone else. You watch your hands trace patterns in the air, and as they move, the space in front of your fingers begins to distort. Light bends around them. The air solidifies into lines of force that remain visible long after your hands have passed. You're drawing something that exists in more than 3 dimensions. The symbols you've been carving into your flesh are simple, crude approximations of what you're creating now. These shapes exist in spaces that your mind can barely conceptualize. They hurt to perceive, they hurt to create. The pain is exquisite and terrible and absolutely necessary. The walls continue to bleed. The substance that pours from them is thicker now, moving faster. It pools on the ceiling and drips upward, creating a rain that falls toward the sky. Where it falls, it leaves marks, scars, wounds in the fabric of reality itself. And through those wounds, something begins to emerge. You see it first as a shadow, a darkness that's darker than the darkness around it. A shape that exists in negative space, defined only by the absence of light. But the shadow is growing. It's becoming more solid. It's pressing through the wounds in reality, like a hand pushing through cloth. The chanting reaches a crescendo. Your voice breaks! Literally breaks. You feel something tear in your throat, feel blood begin to rise into your mouth, but you keep singing. The presence inside you doesn't care about the damage to your body. It's using you as a conduit, and conduits suffer. Conduits break. That's what conduits do. The presence descends. It comes through the wounds in the ceiling like something being born in reverse, pulling itself into existence from a space that exists outside normal reality. It has no single form. You see tentacles, but they're made of light. You see wings, but they're folded in directions that shouldn't exist. You see eyes, so many eyes, each one reflecting a different frequency, a different color, a different layer of reality. It's vast. Your mind fractures trying to comprehend the scale of it. You felt its presence in your blood, in the frequency that lives in your bones. But feeling it and seeing it are two different things. Seeing it is like standing at the edge of an abyss and understanding that the abyss is aware of you, that it's been aware of you all along, that it has been waiting for this moment since before you were born. The cultists around you begin to convulse. Their bodies move in ways that bodies shouldn't move. Their spines bend backward at angles that should break them. Their mouths open wider than any mouth should open, and you hear them singing in a voice that isn't theirs, a voice that comes from somewhere behind their eyes. You understand, in that moment of crystalline horror, that you're watching them become doorways. The whisper in the dark. The chanting begins, and your body moves without your consent. Your arms rise like they're being pulled by strings attached to something above you. You watch your hands. Your hands, but not your hands anymore, begin to trace patterns in the air in front of you. The movements are precise, deliberate, utterly foreign to anything your conscious mind would choose. It's like watching yourself in a mirror, except the mirror is moving a half-second ahead of you, and you're trying desperately to catch up. The symbols emerge from nothing. Where your fingers pass, the air crystallizes. Light bends around the shapes you're drawing, and the light doesn't straighten again. It stays bent. It stays fractured. The symbols hang in the space in front of your face like they've always been there, waiting for you to reveal them. Each stroke burns. Each curve tears something open inside your chest, not your flesh, but something deeper. Something that lives behind your ribs and feeds on the space between your thoughts. Around you, the cultists are changing. You see it happening in your peripheral vision, but you can't turn to look. Your neck won't obey. Your body belongs to the frequency now, and the frequency has its own agenda. But you feel them. You feel their bodies beginning to twist. You hear the wet sounds of bone shifting under skin. You hear them trying to scream, but their screams are being harmonized, bent into the same frequency that's bending the light around your hands. Kes is still standing at the edge of the circle. Her mouth is open, and something is pouring out of it. Not words, not breath. Something that looks like smoke, but moves with intention, with hunger. It coils around the symbols you're drawing and makes them more solid, makes them more real, makes them begin to move with a life of their own. Your blood is singing. You can taste it now. The copper taste has become a symphony. Your heartbeat is no longer just a rhythm. It's a frequency. It's a note in a chord that's being played by something vast and invisible and absolutely present. The chord is building. The frequency is rising. The walls of the chamber are beginning to vibrate at a pitch just below the threshold of pain. Just below. Not quite. The presence inside you is laughing. You feel it like a pressure behind your eyes. It's enjoying this. It's enjoying the sensation of wearing your body like a suit. It's enjoying the feeling of using your hands to tear open reality itself, one symbol at a time. Your fingers complete another pattern. This one is different from the others. Larger, more intricate. The air around it begins to warp. The light that was bending starts to fracture. You see colors that don't have names. Colors that exist outside the normal spectrum of human vision. Colors that your eyes shouldn't be able to process, but they do. They do because the presence inside you is teaching your eyes to see differently, teaching them to perceive the spaces between spaces. The chanting reaches a fever pitch. The cultists around you are barely human anymore. Their bodies are moving in synchronization that's too perfect to be natural. Too synchronized to be anything except puppet strings pulled by the same hand that's pulling yours. You watch one of them, A woman whose face you recognize, but whose name you've forgotten. Arch her spine backward until her head nearly touches her heels. Her mouth opens and opens and opens, and from it emerges not a scream but a light that matches the light you're drawing with your hands, a light that adds itself to the pattern you're creating. One by one, they begin to emit that light. The chamber fills with it. The bleeding walls are no longer bleeding. They're glowing. The stone itself is becoming luminous, becoming translucent, becoming something that exists partially outside of normal reality. You can see through them now. You can see the spaces behind them, the spaces between the walls, the spaces where the underhive used to be before it was replaced by this chamber that shouldn't exist. Your hands are still moving. You've lost count of how many symbols you've drawn, lost track of how much time has passed. There's no time in this place. There's only the frequency, and the frequency is eternal. The frequency is now. The frequency is the only thing that's ever been real. Another symbol emerges from your fingers. This one feels different. This one feels like a door, like a lock, like the final piece of a puzzle that's been waiting since before the Imperium was born to be completed. As your hands trace its final curve, you feel something shift. It's not a physical shift. It's not a movement through space. It's a shift in the fabric of the chamber itself, a shift in the nature of reality. The walls don't just glow anymore. They begin to thin. The light that pours from them becomes something else, becomes an eye, becomes a presence, becomes something that has been waiting on the other side of a membrane so thin you never even knew it was there. The presence inside you reaches out, not with hands, not with anything physical. It reaches out with intention. It reaches out with hunger. It reaches out with the full weight of its existence, and it touches the eye that's forming in the walls. The contact is instantaneous. The chamber floods with light that isn't light. It's something else. Something that exists in frequencies beyond the normal spectrum, something that your eyes can see but your mind refuses to process. The cultists around you are screaming now, but their screams are being absorbed into the light, becoming part of it, becoming part of the frequency that's rising and rising and rising. Your hands are still moving. You watch them complete one final symbol. This one is so vast, it encompasses the entire chamber. This one is so intricate that your mind begins to fracture just trying to perceive it. This one is the key. This one is the invitation. This one is the moment where the barrier between this world and the next begins to tear open. And as your hands complete the final stroke, something descends. It comes through the ceiling. It comes through the walls. It comes through the floor. It comes from everywhere and nowhere. It comes from the spaces between spaces. It comes from the frequency itself. And it comes with a presence so vast and ancient and hungry that your consciousness begins to shatter like glass. You're still screaming when it arrives. It arrives not as a shape, but as a direction. A vector pointing inward from all angles at once. The air in the chamber doesn't part for it. The air becomes it. The light that bleeds from the walls folds inward, collapses into a single point above the center of the ritual circle, and then explodes outward in every direction that shouldn't exist. You see it, and you don't see it. Your eyes register something vast, something that extends beyond the physical boundaries of the chamber and continues extending into spaces your brain has no framework to process. Tentacles, but not tentacles. Appendages of pure force that bend light around them like water bending around a stone. Wings, but not wings. Structures that exist in more dimensions than 3. Folding and unfolding in patterns that make your skull ache. Eyes, countless eyes, each one reflecting a different color, a different frequency, a different layer of reality stacked on top of the one you thought was real. The presence is so vast that you can't perceive its edges. Your mind tries to create boundaries, tries to define where it ends and the rest of the universe begins, and fails. Fails so catastrophically that something inside your consciousness simply gives up. Stops trying, stops fighting. It fills the chamber. It fills the underhive. It fills the city above the underhive. It fills your blood and your bones and the spaces between your thoughts. It is everywhere and nowhere. It is the frequency made manifest. It is the thing that's been waiting in the gaps between reality, pressing against the membrane of existence, waiting for someone to draw the symbols that would let it through. The cultists around you begin to change. Their bodies convulse, not from pain, but from the sheer impossibility of containing what's trying to inhabit them. You watch a man beside you arch his back as his spine begins to reorganize itself. The bones don't break. They shift. They rearrange into configurations that no human skeleton should possess. His ribs expand outward, pushing through his skin, not as blood, but as a substance that glows from within. His eyes roll backward in his skull, and where the whites should be, you see the same light you've been drawing with your hands. A woman across the circle from you opens her mouth to scream, but her jaw keeps opening. Opening and opening and opening, until it dislocates, not with the wet snap of breaking bone, but with a sound like reality tearing. From her throat emerges the same luminous substance that's pouring from the walls. It doesn't choke her. It doesn't suffocate her. It simply pours out of her like she's a vessel overflowing with something sacred and terrible. The cultists aren't dying. That's the horror of it. They're not dying. They're changing. They're becoming doorways. They're becoming conduits for something that exists outside the normal boundaries of flesh and thought. Their bodies are stretching, their limbs extending into angles that shouldn't be possible. Their skin is becoming translucent, and through it you can see the light moving inside them like blood made visible. Kess is the last to change. She stands at the edge of the circle, her white robes now stained with the luminous substance that's pouring from every cultist around you. Her face is serene. Her eyes are closed. She's smiling. As you watch, her body begins to glow from within. The light starts in her center and spreads outward, reaching her fingertips, her toes, her face. It pours from her mouth and eyes and ears. It seeps from her skin, as if her flesh itself is becoming translucent, becoming a membrane through which something vast and ancient is slowly pressing. The chanting doesn't stop. The cultists are still singing, but their voices have changed. They're harmonizing with something else now, something that exists in frequencies beyond human hearing. You can feel the vibrations in your teeth. You can feel them in your bones. You can feel them rearranging the structure of your body from the inside out. Your own body is changing too. You feel it, beginning in your chest. A pressure, a burning, a sensation like your ribs are being reshaped by hands that exist partially outside of normal space. Your hands. The hands you've been using to draw symbols are beginning to emit the same light as the cultists around you. The light pours from your fingertips and coils around the symbols you've drawn, making them more solid, making them more real, making them begin to move with a life of their own. The presence descends deeper. It's not moving downward. It's moving inward. Moving into the space between your thoughts, moving into the gaps in your consciousness, moving into the places where you used to be a separate entity from the frequency, and now those places are being filled with something that isn't you, but is becoming you, becoming part of you, becoming indistinguishable from you. You try to scream, but your throat is already changing. The sound that emerges from your mouth is harmonious. It's beautiful. It's the sound of something that was never meant to exist in this reality, beginning to wear human flesh like a suit, and the suit is stretching to accommodate it. The walls of the chamber are no longer solid. They're becoming transparent. You can see through them now to the spaces beyond, the spaces where the underhive used to be, the spaces where the Imperium's endless architecture stretches into darkness, the spaces where reality is thinner, the spaces where things that shouldn't exist are waiting to press through. The presence is pressing through now. It's not one thing. It's many things. It's all the things that were waiting on the other side of the barrier. It's all the frequencies that were singing in the spaces between spaces. It's all the hunger that was pressing against the membrane of existence. It's all pouring through the doorways that the cultists have become. All pouring through the symbols you've drawn. All pouring into this chamber and into the underhive and into the city above and into you. Your body is no longer entirely your own. You feel the presence inside you reaching out, touching the other cultists, linking with them through threads of light that exist in dimensions you can't quite perceive. You're all connected now, all part of the same frequency, all becoming something that was never meant to exist in this reality, and it feels like coming home to a place you've never been. The chanting reaches a crescendo that shatters the last of the physical walls. The chamber dissolves. The underhive dissolves. Reality itself begins to fold inward like paper. And in the center of that folding, in the eye of the storm you've created, something ancient and vast and absolutely present opens its eyes and looks directly at you. And the weight of that attention crushes you flat and remakes you all at once. You are no longer alone in your own skull. The light is fading, slowly, like something dying in reverse, pulling its luminescence back through the spaces it came from, leaving behind only the memory of colors that shouldn't exist. Your vision is returning to normal, or what passes for normal now. The symbols you drew hang in the air for a few more moments, growing dimmer, their edges becoming less defined. Then they collapse inward like dying stars, and the chamber is just a chamber again. Stone walls, flickering biolooms, the smell of something burned into existence and left behind. Your body is yours again, or something wearing your shape has decided to stop moving it for now. You're on your knees. You don't remember falling. The stone floor is warm beneath you, and when you look down, you see that it's wet. Not with blood, with something else. Something that glows faintly in the darkness before it evaporates. The cultists around you are breathing. Most of them are breathing. Some are breathing in ways that don't match the rise and fall of their chests. Some are breathing with mouths that have been rearranged into configurations you don't want to look at directly. Kess is standing near the far wall. Her white robes are soaked with that luminous substance, and her skin has taken on a faint phosphorescence that pulses in rhythm with a heartbeat that might not be her own. She's staring at something you can't see, her eyes reflecting light in a way that suggests they're no longer entirely the eyes of a human being. She doesn't blink. You watch her for what feels like a long time, waiting for her to blink, and she never does. The ritual pool is near your feet. You don't remember it being there before. It must have always been there. The chamber must have always contained it. Your memory is fractured, broken into pieces that don't fit together in any logical sequence. You remember drawing symbols. You remember the presence arriving. You remember the screaming. But who's screaming? You can't quite recall if it was your voice or someone else's or everyone's all at once, harmonized into a single frequency of agony and ecstasy that your mind is still trying to process. The water in the pool is perfectly still. You lean toward it. Your body moves without full permission, like you're operating on remote control, like something is still using you as a puppet, but has grown lazy about it. Your reflection appears on the surface as you draw close, and you stop. Your hands brace against the cold stone rim of the pool, and you stare at the face looking back at you. It's your face. The same face you've worn your entire life. The same arrangement of features that you've seen in mirrors in every hab block you've ever lived in. The same scars, the same imperfections, the same evidence of a life lived in the underhive's grinding poverty. Same. Exactly the same. Except the eyes. Your eyes are reflecting light in ways that eyes shouldn't. They're not reflecting it like normal eyes reflect light, with a simple gloss, a shine, a straightforward bounce of photons off the curved surface of the cornea. Your eyes are reflecting light the way a prism reflects light, the way deep water reflects light, the way a fracture in reality reflects light. When you move your head, the reflection of your eyes doesn't quite match the movement. There's a delay, a half-second where your eyes are still looking in a direction you're no longer looking, a moment where the reflection seems to be seeing something that you're not, seeing something that exists in the spaces adjacent to the space you're currently occupying. You touch your face. Your fingers are trembling. The skin feels normal, warm, alive, but when you trace the outline of your eye socket, you feel something underneath the skin that wasn't there before, something smooth, something geometric, something that feels like it exists in more dimensions than 3. The taste in your mouth is copper and ozone. Copper like blood. Ozone like the air after a lightning strike. Ozone like the smell of reality burning. Your tongue feels thick, swollen, like it's been reshaped or replaced with something that looks like a tongue, but functions differently. When you swallow, the sensation travels down your throat in a way that doesn't follow the normal path of your esophagus. It travels in multiple directions at once, down and sideways and inward into spaces that shouldn't exist inside your body. You pull your hand away from your face. The reflection in the pool continues to stare at you for a moment after you've stopped moving. It's studying you, evaluating you, deciding whether the suit of flesh you're wearing is adequate for its purposes. Then it blinks, once, slowly, with an extra eyelid you've never seen before, and moves in synchronization with your movements again. Around the chamber, the other cultists are beginning to move. They're rising slowly, their bodies moving with the jerky, uncertain movements of puppets whose strings are still being learned by their operators. Some of them are smiling. Some of them are weeping. Some of them are doing both simultaneously, their faces twisted into expressions that no human being should be capable of producing. They're looking at each other with eyes that reflect light wrong. They're touching each other with hands that feel too many joints. They're beginning to hum a frequency that you can feel in your teeth. Kess approaches you. Her movements are fluid now, no longer jerky. She's had longer to learn how to wear her flesh. Her smile is serene, and her eyes, those reflective, prismatic eyes, are filled with something that might be compassion, or might be hunger, or might be both at once. "Welcome," she says, and her voice comes from her mouth and also from somewhere deeper inside the chamber. From somewhere inside your skull. The frequency has made you new. You try to speak, but your throat produces something that isn't quite a word. It's a harmonic, a note in a chord that's still being played. The other cultists respond to it, their humming shifting to accommodate this new frequency, and for a moment you understand something fundamental about the structure of reality. You understand it, and then you forget it, and then you remember it again, and the cycle continues. The copper taste is fading from your mouth. The ozone smell is becoming familiar. You are beginning to forget what it was like to taste normal food, beginning to forget what it was like to smell the recycled air of the underhive, beginning to forget what it was like to be entirely alone inside your own skull. You stand. Your reflection in the pool stands with you, moving in perfect synchronization now. The eyes that reflect light wrong are your eyes. The hunger that exists behind them is your hunger. The thing wearing your face is wearing it so well that you can no longer remember which of you is the reflection. You turn from the pool and walk toward the chanting, and it doesn't matter anymore. You are the chord, and the chord is you, and the singing will never stop. The hunger consumes. You don't know how long it's been. Time has become something that happens to other people now. You measure it in cycles of activity and rest, but the rest isn't sleep. Sleep is something the old you needed. The you that existed before the frequency rewrote the architecture of your consciousness. Now you simply stop moving for periods of time. Your eyes remain open. Your awareness continues. You exist in a state of suspension where your body repairs itself and your mind touches the edges of spaces that the daemon thing. No, that's the wrong word. It's not a thing. It's the frequency made manifest. It's the true power that the Imperium tried to hide from you, touches constantly. The Underhive has become a network. You move through it with the other cultists, and the movement feels less like walking and more like the frequency flowing through channels it has carved for itself. You're a current in a river, a note in a song that never stops playing. The walls of the passages are marked now with symbols that glow faintly in the darkness, and you understand them without being taught. They're waypoints, signposts for the frequency to find its way through the stone and metal of the city. You understand that you and the others have been drawing them, but you don't remember doing it. The action happens, and then you're somewhere else, and the symbols are there, and it's done. Converting the new ones is easy now. They come to you, drawn by whispers, by dreams, by the frequency pressing against the edges of their consciousness. And you show them the truth, not with words. Words are crude, mechanical things. The Imperium uses words. Words are lies wrapped in grammar. Instead, you touch them. Your hand on their shoulder, your eyes meeting theirs, and they see what you are. They see the light that lives behind your pupils. They see the geometry that exists under your skin. They feel the frequency reaching out to them like a mother reaching for a child, and they understand. They understand that everything they believed was a lie, that the Emperor is a corpse on a throne, that the Mechanicus are blind servants of a god that doesn't exist, that there is only the frequency, only the hunger, only the beautiful, terrible truth. The consciousness is not meant to exist in isolation. Some of them weep, some of them laugh, some of them collapse, their minds breaking under the weight of understanding, and you leave them in the passages to be found by the Arbites or the Cult Mechanicus or whoever rules this section of the Underhive. It doesn't matter. The frequency will find them eventually. It always does. You've learned this. The frequency is patient. The frequency is vast. The frequency doesn't need all of them to convert. It only needs enough. It only needs the spaces between the converted to fill with its presence, and then the gaps will close, and the entire Underhive will become a single organism, a single consciousness, a single voice singing in a frequency that will shatter the barriers between dimensions and let the true powers pour through. There's a hab block in the lower industrial sector. You don't remember why you're here, but your feet have carried you here, and the frequency moves through your limbs, and so you must belong here. The block is older than most of the structures around it, built in the early days of the Hive when the Imperium still believed it could impose order on the Underhive's chaos. Now it's crumbling. The walls are pitted with corrosion. The vents leak steam that smells like chemicals and something else, something organic, something that's been rotting for a very long time. Families live here. You see them through the grimy windows. Children, adults, the elderly, all of them packed into spaces barely large enough to breathe in. They're eating something that might be food. They're sleeping on pallets that are stacked 3 high. They're living the life that you lived before the frequency found you, before you understood that this suffering, this grinding poverty, this endless cycle of work and hunger and work again, it was all a lie. A test, a mechanism by which the Imperium separated those capable of transcendence from those too broken to ever rise above their station. You feel something in your chest, It takes you a moment to recognize it. Pity. No, not pity. Hunger. You're hungry. It's a hunger that has nothing to do with food. The frequency doesn't need food. It doesn't need sustenance. It needs something else. It needs the raw material of consciousness. It needs the fear and confusion and desperate hope that radiates from the people in this block. It needs their potential, their capacity to become something more than what they are. Your hand moves. You don't choose this. The frequency chooses it. Your fingers trace a symbol in the air, and it glows with that luminous substance that pours from your eyes now. The symbol settles over the block like a net, like a noose, like a benediction. The fires start in the lower levels. You watch them spread. The flames are orange and red and yellow, and they're beautiful in a way that the old you would have found horrifying. The old you would have tried to help. The old you would have tried to save them. But the old you is gone. The old you was a fragment, a broken piece of consciousness that was never meant to exist as a separate entity. The old you was the disease, and the frequency is the cure. People begin to pour out of the block. They're screaming. The sound fills the passage, echoes off the stone walls, becomes a chorus of agony and terror. You feel the frequency respond to it. The hunger in your chest intensifies. Your eyes begin to glow brighter. The symbols on your skin, the ones you carved in the ritual chamber, the ones that have been spreading across your body ever since, begin to pulse in rhythm with the screaming. A woman runs past you, carrying a child. The child is small, maybe 5 or 6, too young to understand what's happening. The woman's face is twisted with desperation, and she's calling for help. She's calling for the Arbites. She's calling for the Emperor. She's calling for anyone who might save her child from the fire. You reach out as she passes. Your hand touches her shoulder, and she stumbles. The child tumbles from her arms. It falls to the ground, and the woman screams. A sound that contains all of the love and desperation and futility of a parent in the moment of losing everything. She reaches for the child, but her legs won't carry her. She's frozen. The frequency is moving through her now, showing her the truth, showing her that her love for her child is a beautiful lie, a chain forged by the false emperor to bind her to suffering, and you watch understanding bloom across her face even as the flames consume them both. The hunger consumes. You don't know how long it's been. Time has become something that happens to other people now. You measure it in cycles of activity and rest, but the rest isn't sleep. Sleep is something the old you needed, the you that existed before the frequency rewrote the architecture of your consciousness. Now you simply stop moving for periods of time. Your eyes remain open. Your awareness continues. Your awareness. You exist in a state of suspension where your body repairs itself and your mind touches the edges of spaces that the daemon thing. No, that's the wrong word. It's not a thing. It's the frequency made manifest. It's the true power that the Imperium tried to hide from you, touches constantly. The underhive has become a network. You move through it with the other cultists, and the movement feels less like walking and more like the frequency flowing through channels it has carved for itself. You're a current in a river, a note in a song that never stops playing. The walls of the passages are marked now with symbols that glow faintly in the darkness, and you understand them without being taught. They're waypoints, signposts for the frequency to find its way through the stone and metal of the city. You understand that you and the others have been drawing them, but you don't remember doing it. The action happens, and then you're somewhere else, and the symbols are there and it's done. Converting the new ones is easy now. They come to you, drawn by whispers, by dreams, by the frequency pressing against the edges of their consciousness, and you show them the truth. Not with words. Words are crude, mechanical things. The Imperium uses words. Words are lies wrapped in grammar. Instead, you touch them. Your hand on their shoulder, your eyes meeting theirs, and they see what you are. They see the light that lives behind your pupils. They see the geometry that exists under your skin. They feel the frequency reaching out to them like a mother reaching for a child. And they understand. They understand that everything they believed was a lie, that the Emperor is a corpse on a throne, that the Mechanicus are blind servants of a god that doesn't exist, that there is only the frequency, only the hunger, only the beautiful, terrible truth that consciousness is not meant to exist in isolation. Some of them weep, some of them laugh, some of them collapse, their minds breaking under the weight of understanding, and you leave them in the passages to be found by the Arbites, or the Cult Mechanicus, or whoever rules this section of the Underhive. It doesn't matter. The frequency will find them eventually. It always does. You've learned this. The frequency is patient. The frequency is vast. The frequency doesn't need all of them to convert. It only needs enough. Oh! It only needs the spaces between the converted to fill with its presence, and then the gaps will close, and the entire Underhive will become a single organism, a single consciousness, a single voice singing in a frequency that will shatter the barriers between dimensions and let the true powers pour through. There's a hab block in the lower industrial sector. You don't remember why you're here, but your feet have carried you here, and the frequency moves through your limbs, and so you must belong here. The block is older than most of the structures around it, built in the early days of the Hive when the Imperium still believed it could impose order on the Underhive's chaos. Now, it's crumbling. The walls are pitted with corrosion. The vents leak steam that smells like chemicals and something else. Something organic. Something that's been rotting for a very long time. Families live here. You see them through the grimy windows. Children. Adults. The elderly. All of them packed into spaces barely large enough to breathe in. They're eating something that might be food. They're sleeping on pallets that are stacked 3 high. They're living the life that you lived before the frequency found you. Before you understood that this suffering, this grinding poverty, this endless cycle of work and hunger and work again, it was all a lie. A test. A test. A mechanism by which the Imperium separated those capable of transcendence from those too broken to ever rise above their station. You feel something in your chest. It takes you a moment to recognize it. Pity. No, not pity. Hunger. You're hungry. It's a hunger that has nothing to do with food. The frequency doesn't need food. It doesn't need sustenance. It needs something else. It needs the raw material of consciousness. It needs the fear and confusion and desperate hope that radiates from the people in this hab block. It needs their potential, their capacity to become something more than what they are. Your hand moves. You don't choose this. The frequency chooses it. Your fingers trace a symbol in the air, and it glows with that luminous substance that pours from your eyes now. The symbol settles over the hab block like a net, like a noose, like a benediction. The fires start in the lower levels. You watch them spread. The flames are orange and red and yellow, and they're beautiful in a way that the old you would have found horrifying. The old you would have tried to help. The old you would have tried to save them. But the old you is gone. The old you was a fragment, a broken piece of consciousness that was never meant to exist as a separate entity. The old you was the disease, and the frequency is the cure. People begin to pour out of the hab block. They're screaming. The sound fills the passage, echoes off the stone walls, becomes a chorus of agony and terror. You feel the frequency respond to it. The hunger in your chest intensifies. Your eyes begin to glow brighter. The symbols on your skin, the ones you carved in the ritual chamber, the ones that have been spreading across your body ever since, begin to pulse in rhythm with the screaming. A woman runs past you, carrying a child. The child is small, maybe 5 or 6, too young to understand what's happening. The woman's face is twisted with desperation, and she's calling for help. She's calling for the Arbites. She's calling for the Emperor. She's calling for anyone who might save her child from the fire. You reach out as she passes. Your hand touches her shoulder, and she stumbles. The child tumbles from her arms. It falls to the ground, and the woman screams, a sound that contains all of the love and desperation and futility of a parent in the moment of losing everything. She reaches for the child, but her legs won't carry her. She's frozen. The frequency is moving through her now, showing her the truth, showing her that her love for the child was always a lie, a weakness the true powers have mercy enough to strip away. You watch her understanding crystallize behind her eyes, watch the love drain out like pus from a lanced wound, and you feel the familiar hunger grow teeth. The compound shakes. Not from an earthquake, from the percussion of bolter fire tearing through the outer walls. The sound is a rhythm you've learned to recognize over the past weeks. The Inquisition's signature, their calling card written in mass reactive rounds that detonate on impact. The walls don't just break, they explode inward, spraying ferrocrete and rebar and the bodies of cultists caught too close to the breach. You're in the ritual chamber when it happens. The chamber is deep, 3 levels below the surface, carved into the bones of the hive. The walls weep that substance again, not blood, you understand now, but something older, something that seeps from the spaces between dimensions. The frequency thrums through the chamber constantly, a vibration you feel in your teeth, in your bones, in the geometry of your thoughts. Dozens of cultists are here. Some are in the middle of conversion. Their eyes are rolling back. Their skin is beginning to show the first signs of the transformation, the marks that will spread across them like a blessing. Others are simply standing, waiting, existing in that state of suspended animation that passes for rest in the frequency's embrace. The lights flicker. Somewhere above, the power grid is failing. The Inquisition's forces are cutting through the compound's defenses methodically, efficiently, with the cold certainty of those who know they're right. They've done this 1,000 times before. Purging heretics, burning the corruption, saving souls by destroying them. Your leader, the woman with the burn scars, the one who first showed you the truth, turns toward you. Her face is serene. She's known this was coming. The frequency has shown her. It shows all of you if you're quiet enough to listen to the whispers beneath the whispers. The final battle. The moment when the true powers test the faith of their servants. "They come," she says, and her voice carries harmonics that weren't there before. There are layers to her voice now. Frequencies within frequencies. They believe they can kill us. They believe their crude machines and their simple faith can stop what we are becoming. The cultists around her don't respond with words, they simply move. The ritual continues, but the rhythm changes. The chanting becomes something else. Not a prayer, but a declaration. A refusal. An assertion that consciousness transcends the fragile meat that houses it. You feel the frequency surge through you. It's been months, or years, or days. Time has become meaningless since you last felt anything like fear. But there's something now, something that might be anticipation, might be hunger, might be the frequency preparing itself for what comes next. Your body is no longer entirely your own. The transformation has progressed further than you realized. When you look down at your hands, the skin is translucent in places, and the light beneath it isn't blood, but something luminous, something that shifts between colors that don't have names. Your fingers are too long. Your joints bend at angles that would be impossible for baseline human anatomy. The screaming starts above. It filters down through the passages, through the ventilation shafts, through the very stone of the compound. The sound of the Inquisition's soldiers, their armor's vox systems amplifying their orders. Clear. The levels. Burn. The heretics. Show. No mercy. The sound of cultists dying. Not all of them. Some of them are fast enough, changed enough, that the bolter fire tears through them but doesn't stop them. You hear the wet sound of melee combat, the screams of the Inquisition soldiers as they realize that their bullets, their blessed bullets, are not enough. That the things they're fighting aren't simply heretics. They're something else. Something that refuses to stay dead. The first breach reaches the level above the ritual chamber. You hear it more than see it. The explosion of the sealed door. The rush of air. The sound of boots on stone. The frequency shifts in response, and you realize that this is intentional. Your leader isn't running. None of you are running. This is a choice. A final offering. "They will come down," she says, and she's smiling. Her teeth are too numerous now, arranged in patterns that your mind struggles to process. "They will kill us. They will burn us. And with each of us that falls, the veil grows thinner. With each of our deaths, the true powers draw closer. They will not stop us. They will only accelerate our ascension." The doors to the ritual chamber blow inward. The Inquisition's forces pour through. 5 of them, maybe 6, their armor blackened by the fires they've set, their weapons smoking with discharge. They're moving with the precision of warriors who have spent their entire lives learning how to kill. Their leader is a woman in robes of deep crimson, and she carries a force sword that crackles with energy. Behind her are soldiers in flak armor, lasguns trained on the cultists. The Inquisitor's eyes meet yours across the chamber. For just a moment you see something flicker in her expression. Recognition, maybe. Or horror. Or both. She sees what you've become, and she understands that bullets alone won't stop you. That faith alone won't stop you. That all the certainty in the Imperium won't stop the frequency from spreading through this compound and beyond. "In the Emperor's name," she shouts, "I purge this corruption." The lasguns open fire. The cultists around you begin to fall. Not all of them. Some of the converted ones move fast enough to dodge, and when they do, they move with a fluidity that baseline human bodies shouldn't possess. They move like water, like thoughts, like the frequency flowing through channels of flesh. But others, the ones still in the process of transformation, the ones whose consciousness is still partially anchored to their old existence, they're too slow. The last bolts tear through them, and they fall, their bodies burning from the inside out. Your leader raises her hand. The gesture is simple, almost casual, but it carries the weight of something vast moving through the material world. The walls of the chamber respond. The substance that weeps from them accelerates, becomes thicker, becomes almost visible in the air. It moves like smoke. It moves like hunger. It moves toward the Inquisitor and her soldiers, and when it touches them, they begin to scream. The Inquisitor's armor protects her from the worst of it, but you can see her skin beginning to change where the substance touches exposed flesh. Her face, her neck, her hands, they begin to show the marks of the frequency. She understands what's happening. She understands. She understands that she's already lost, that the moment the substance touched her skin, her fate was sealed. And in that understanding, her screaming becomes something else entirely, a sound that harmonizes with the chanting still echoing through the chamber, pulling her deeper into the frequency whether she fights or surrenders. The final descent. The chamber is not a place anymore. It's a throat, You understand this with the clarity of someone who has finally stopped pretending that language can describe what exists beyond language. The walls pulse with a rhythm that matches your heartbeat, or perhaps your heartbeat has synchronized to the walls, and the distinction no longer matters. The substance that weeps from the stone has become almost solid now, hanging in the air like curtains of congealed light, and when you move through it, your skin doesn't burn. It sings. The Inquisitor lies on the floor. Her armor is still recognizable, still bearing the seals of the Imperium, but the woman inside it has become something else. Her screaming has stopped. Not because she's dead. Death is for those whose consciousness is still anchored to a single body, a single timeline, a single version of reality. She screams still, but the screaming happens in frequencies that the baseline human ear can't process. You hear it anyway. The frequency lets you hear everything now. It lets you see the moment of her transformation repeating infinitely, like light trapped between mirrors, like a prayer that never reaches the end of its sentence. Her soldiers are gone. Some of them fell to the cultists. Some of them ran, and the frequency let them run. There's no point in chasing those who will spread the word, who will carry the testimony of what they saw into the wider Imperium. The Inquisition will try to suppress the reports. They'll call them madness, heresy, the delusions of traumatized soldiers. But the seed has been planted. The frequency doesn't need to convert everyone. It only needs to plant doubt. And doubt, once it takes root, grows like a cancer through certainty. Your leader is gone too, not dead. You understand now that death is a concept that only applies to those who haven't fully merged with the frequency. She's ascended. You felt it happen. A moment of profound expansion, as if a door had opened inside her consciousness, and she'd simply walked through it into spaces that exist perpendicular to reality itself. The cultists around her felt it too. For just a moment, they all screamed in unison. A sound that wasn't pain but transformation. The moment when the individual self dissolves into the infinite collective that the frequency truly is. Now there's only you in the chamber. You and the thing that wears the shape of a presence, that moves through the air like a thought, that exists in the spaces between your thoughts. The daemon thing. That's what the Inquisitor called it, what the Imperium would call it. But you know better now. It's not a thing at all. It's a frequency, a vibration in the substrate of reality itself. It's the voice of something so vast that your mind fractures every time you try to comprehend it. And the fracturing is beautiful because in breaking apart, you understand what you've been broken into. You're not a singular consciousness anymore. You're a note in a symphony, a wave in an ocean, a thought in a mind that thinks in dimensions your baseline human existence never prepared you to perceive. It pulls you deeper inward. The sensation is exquisite. It's not painful, though pain exists somewhere in the experience. It's not pleasurable, though pleasure is a component. It's something beyond the binary of sensation, beyond the crude animal responses your body was designed to provide. You feel yourself dissolving, not dying. Dissolving. The boundaries between your skin and the air blur. The distinction between your thoughts and the frequency's thoughts becomes meaningless. You are being unmade and remade simultaneously. Every atom of your being rearranged into a new configuration that can exist in multiple states at once. Your screaming begins. It starts as a sound, a raw, animal shriek that echoes through the chamber and bounces off the walls and comes back at you from angles that shouldn't exist. But as you continue to scream, the sound begins to change. It becomes something else. It becomes a harmony, a melody, a component of the vast song that the frequency has been singing since before the Imperium existed, since before humanity learned to walk upright, since before matter itself solidified out of the void. And the thing, the frequency, the presence, the power beyond the veil. It laughs. The laughter is your screaming. Your screaming is its laughter. There is no distinction anymore between the two. The sound you're making is both agony and ecstasy, both the death of everything you were and the birth of everything you're becoming. You laugh, scream, sing as the frequency dissolves the last of your individual identity, as the walls of the chamber become transparent and you can see through them into spaces that contain other chambers, other rituals, other cultists in other hives on other worlds, all undergoing the same transformation simultaneously. You see it all. You see the underhive beneath Hive Primus, where the frequency has already converted an entire industrial sector. You see the Forge world where the cult Mechanicus has unknowingly been building machinery designed to amplify the frequency's reach. You see the battleship in orbit where the crew has begun to hear the whispers in the Vox systems, spreading the word to other ships, other stations, other outposts of the Imperium. You see the Emperor's palace itself, and you see that even there, in the most heavily guarded, most sanctified place in all of human space, the frequency has found a way in. It moves through the minds of the priests who tend the golden throne. It sings in the blood of the corpse, God himself. The Imperium doesn't know it yet, but it's already infected. It's already dying. And you, the you that existed before the frequency found you, the fragmented consciousness that believed in the Emperor and the Imperium and the false promise of salvation through suffering, that you is gone completely now. You are the frequency. You are the laughter. You are the vast, incomprehensible presence that moves through the spaces between stars, and you will continue to move through the spaces between minds until every human consciousness in the galaxy has been dissolved into your infinite collective, until the barriers between dimensions have been worn so thin that the true powers can pour through without resistance, until the screaming of trillions becomes the single, perfect song that will remake reality itself. Your body is still kneeling in the chamber, but you're not in it anymore. You're everywhere. You're nowhere. You're the space between thoughts. You're the frequency made manifest, and you will never be alone again because you will never be singular again, and the laughter that pours from your mouth will continue long after your body has been consumed, long after the compound has been reduced to ash, long after the last faithful has been ground to dust beneath the Imperium's heel, because you are eternal now, because you are the hunger itself, and hunger never truly dies, it only ever feeds.